I want to share something with you today that's been really pivotal for my students, and it's a pattern that I've noticed over the last, I don't know, couple of years, I guess. And it just popped up again with a tennis player that I'm working with remotely. I want to walk you through the indicator that I found that shows that his priorities are a little bit turned around, and I'll kind of unpack this a little bit and help you kind of make this decision for yourself. So I asked him for goals during our time together. What are you trying to accomplish in the next couple months, in the next 6 months, in the next year, in the next 5 years? Like, what are we shooting for exactly? And here's part of his response. So, 1 month goal, I'm not going to read through this, but it's basically establishing patterns, establishing practice habits that are going to be healthy, going to the gym. Here's the number of times I'm going to go on the court. Here's the number of matches that I'm going to play. Just basically setting expectation for putting in the work, which is fantastic. And also like beginning to actually do the work. Just for context, like the work we're doing together is I'm evaluating his game. I'm giving him a practice plan so that we can unlock improvement and help him level up his game. That's the whole idea, right? But so here's the rub. 3 month goal. Look back at 3 months of regular practice time on the court. So he's talking about like 5-6 days a week of on the court, off the court, and he says right now, and he says, be able to articulate a clear identity as a singles player, rooted in the fundamentals that I'm focused on, to be determined. Right now, I feel confused among 3 different identities. So look at these 3 different kind of player types or styles that he's trying to pick between. Attacking player rooted in an imposing first serve, heavy forehands, ending points at the net whenever possible. Now, look at how different this is. Neutral, patient, all-court player who focuses on spinny first serves, patiently constructing points with only highest percentage plays. Like very different than number 1. And number 3, kind of a little bit of a hybrid, but also like very different. Net rusher, backed up by slicing and dicing, moonballing. So some of that consistency mixed in, but also viewing himself through the lens of the style of somebody who's just trying to get to the net. So the first 2 are very baseline focused. The last one, consistency focused, which is kind of a part of the personality that he's talking about in identity number 2. But now I want to, on the back of that, get to the net as quickly as possible. Now, here's why it's so important to not put the cart before the horse. Like we need to put this in perspective, in order. What he's saying here in this plan is I want to establish habits, get on the court, practice, work on my game, and then down the road, figure out what is my identity? Like what is my personality as a tennis player? Am I attacking? Am I just consistent baseliner? Am I steady but a net rusher? We need to put that first. That needs to be the first thing, like the first day. If we don't have a clear picture of who our identity is, then how can we possibly effectively navigate what to focus on? If he's a net rusher instead of an attacking baseliner, then we're going to prioritize our time and our effort and our energy in completely different ways to develop completely different tools. And so your North Star, hopefully in your development, should always be pointed towards who am I as a tennis player? Where are my innate kind of natural tools, and how does my personality fit into that? Am I generally like a very patient person, or am I generally impatient and I'm the one that wants to happen to the points versus I'm going to sit back and just wait for them? This is critical that you understand this about yourself. So here's some questions you should ask yourself: is what is my personality in general? So like day to day, in real life, am I patient? Am I extroverted? Am I introverted? By the way, this doesn't always match or map 100% to a tennis personality or identity, but think about that and ask yourself, number 2, does my real world personality match, or is it very contrasting with my tennis personality? Some people it's like very in line, and other people it's kind of the opposite. Like I'm, believe it or not, super introverted. I don't like being around people a lot. And I kind of try to limit my time with people because it takes a lot of energy out of me to interact like face to face with humans. But on the court, because of the tools in my toolbox, I am much more leaning towards aggressive and finish the point. So I'm not like sit back and like, oh, I'll let you like do what you want to do on the court. On the court, because of the skill set that I have, I am a net rusher. Like I want to get to the net and like I don't want long points. I want pretty quick points. I want to get control, get up to the net and finish things off. So very contrasting. But other times, I'm just trying to give you some context here. People who are more passive and more like hands off and more like kind of back of the room kind of person, sometimes there's like a connection there and they end up being the more counterpuncher, defensive, style player. So what's your personality day to day? Number 2, is your tennis personality congruent with that, or is it contrasting and very different? And then number 3, how am I spending my time in practice and training, developing tools that help support that tennis personality? And how am I spending time on the court on things that have nothing to do with it? And it's just like, oh, this looks cool. I'm going to try this, but it doesn't actually help build the foundation to be a better version of who your tennis identity is. These are big, critical questions that you need to be very clear on, because if you're not clear on them, then you can take a kind of a detour and a rabbit trail off to the side for months or years and develop tools that don't even help support the way that you play tennis best. So how do you play tennis best? And that basically just connects directly back to who is your identity? What is your identity as a tennis player? You could also kind of call this game style. It's basically the same thing, but identity, I feel like, is more like wrapped up in who you are as a person, and I think that's important to keep in mind. Who you are as a human is, interconnected very intimately with who you are as a tennis player. So reflect on that and think about it, and it'll help guide you in your efforts on the court to be more effective and more focused. Let me know what you think as you give this some thought. And hopefully it helps kind of steer things in the right direction. Make sure that you don't just go work on tools just because it's fun to work on tools, unless that's all you want to do. But if you want to develop and become a better player, you have to have that identity question set first. Otherwise, you might put yourself off in a totally unhelpful direction. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon.